And next guest is Christine Zuppa. Christine is an experienced educator with a wide range of experience in both private and public school settings with a focus on special education. She's passionate about equipping educators with knowledge and confidence to create engaging and welcoming classrooms. She brings her conscientious and ambitious mindset to the Making the Grade project team, which she co founded with Georgia O'Keeffe, who's also a seasoned educator with a decade of experience and whose work revolves around early childhood education. While Christine is the only one joining today, we'll talk about both Christine and George's work on the podcast today. Welcome to the Out of the Trenches podcast, Christine.
Thank you so much, Dana. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, first of all, tell me about a time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Yes, I love this question. A time that I was in the trenches and managed to crawl out of. I thought of a few when I was brainstorming, but I always like to go with the first one that comes to mind. And that was when I was about 5 years into teaching, and so in special education, it's just it's a different role, I think, than a typical teacher, depending on the type of classroom that you have, the type of students that you have, the community that you work in. So I just remember I was having a really hard time with a student who was looking to go to a different placement. I was very connected with the family, and it was starting to kind of feel too personal. I always try to, find that separation between school and home and try to keep that balance. And it was just the lines were getting very blurred. And I was taking a lot of that to heart. And it wasn't a personal thing that was going on, but it just hurt my heart to see a student struggling. One of my students who, I had a great relationship with, and with the family and the school, and everyone was doing everything that they could for this student, all the right things, and they were still struggling. So I felt very much in the trenches then. And I kind of started to realize like this is affecting me beyond the classroom, beyond my work day. And I did a few things. So first thing was I turned to my teacher friends, literally right next door, and knocked on the door, talked to people who understood where I was coming from, and just kind of explained how I was feeling. And I also talked to a lot of different teacher friends as well about the behaviors that I was seeing with the student, and tried to get more insight into the problem and trying to come at it from a different way. So leaned on friends, kind of sought out that career advice in a sense, in the field advice, and then aggressive self-care. I took a day, a mental health day, and I tried to establish better boundaries moving forward in terms of when I would leave, the things I would do at home. So I had this cutoff at 4 o'clock. I would leave my classroom, no more thinking, no more talking about it. I turned off Dojo on my phone, communicated to my parents about that prior, obviously, but I wasn't looking at messages for the next day at 9 o'clock at night when I was supposed to be on the couch watching a show, unwinding. So those are a few things that I did. I'm sure more will come to mind, but that was the top of mind thing. It was very personal to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when you're teaching special ed, it is unpredictable, right? And you have a lot of things to juggle with all the IEP writing, the IEP meetings, the parents to communicate with, and those types of things. So, yeah, really finding your balance and making sure that you're able to establish those boundaries. Sounds like that was, that learning experience for you. So, I was kind of sent your way, you and Georgia's way, in terms of Andrea Bittner, a previous guest on my podcast, had met you all at a conference. So you all run Making the Grade project, which trains teachers who specialize in you also specialize in new teacher support in the areas around executive functioning, teacher licensure, and retention. So talk to me about when this all started, And do you currently serve teachers only in your state or also throughout the US?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so where it all started about 5 years ago, in 2019, I had my first child and was taking a year-long leave of absence from my special ed teaching position, and I just said yes to a remote opportunity. And with that, I started working with teachers in remotely to support them in the areas of licensure and supporting them getting ready to take the Massachusetts teaching tests. So I started doing that, and I realized that I really liked it. It was a different role for a lot of reasons. I was working with undergraduate and graduate students, so adults, and a lot of it is very similar to working with children. Adults and children need a lot of the same things in terms of instruction and, finding compatibility and figuring out their learning styles. So a lot of it is similar. The piece that I started enjoying was not being bound to the K to 12 schedule. That was a huge piece of it. But also just seeing the effect of the teachers who then affected their students. And that was something new to me. So I kept going with it and then joined forces with Georgia. And so the past few years, we've been building Making a Grade project in the Boston area, and we support mostly a lot of teachers within Massachusetts. So we work with organizations, some nonprofits, and local colleges, educator prep programs, and K to 12 schools in the areas of supporting teachers getting ready for their license. So we have online access and content for teachers who are looking for support. We have a ton of free stuff, lots of good resources on our blog. And then in terms of helping teachers all over the United States, so not just Massachusetts alone, we do work with executive function coaching and executive function skills. So that's really for anyone. It started with a teacher lens because a lot of our, all of our content and professional development series start with that lens of thinking of yourself as the learner. And we just found that teachers and everyone seemed really interested to learn about their brain in that way and those 8 key areas of how we process information, what makes up our strengths and areas of need as learners, and then how we can help ourselves to, overcome the challenges that we see day to day. So we've been working on that as well, and so that is for anyone within the United States, which is fun too because we can reach more people that way.
Mhm. Yeah, like we talked about in the pre-chat, executive functioning is a skill that newer teachers are not necessarily trained on during their teacher prep program or even their student teaching experience. So, how do you pair teachers up with mentors and help them work together to find out more about executive functioning, such as time management?
Yes, yes, of course. So, one way is through our course. So, we have a webinar that you can watch for free, make sure that it feels like a good fit for you. And then we have an online self-paced course on executive function. So, executive function is the way that you process information, the way that you manage systems, and the way that you prioritize and plan your tasks. So that encompasses a lot of different areas. We focus on 8 key areas: working memory, task initiation, self-monitoring skills, flexible thinking, emotional control, prioritization and planning of tasks, impulse control, and organization. So those are the areas that we are focusing on. And so the way that the course works is there's a community where you can meet and chat about your progress, how you're applying those skills in your day-to-day life, professional, personal, and the progress that you're making. And then within working with districts and professional development series, that would be organizational base that we work with teachers.
And then, what do you think are some of the gaps that teachers have coming out of teacher prep programs in terms of what they're not really that prepared to do? I mean, a lot of the time it varies, but like, what are you seeing in the teachers that you've worked with?
It's a great question. We've been talking about this a lot with the organization leaders and their future planning. I think we see a lot of things. One major thing that sticks out is the disruption of COVID learning with the area of standardized testing is, something that we're very well versed in because of the teacher licensure exams. But the rounds of students and undergraduate teacher candidates who were affected by COVID learning at the high school level really missed out on a lot of traditional standardized test taking experiences like SATs. So that definitely affects them as they're preparing for graduate level exams. So that's one factor. Um, in
In
terms
terms
of
of
teachers getting
teachers.
into the classroom, we see a lot of new systems that need to be learned. So, from an executive function perspective, if you're starting in a new role, you're going to have to learn those digital literacy skills,
Literacy
the
skills, the
infrastructure of a district. You'll have to learn new technology. You have to, if you started a new school, even if you're in a different grade level, if you're a seasoned teacher starting in a different grade level,
Mhm.
it's that acquisition of the new information that teachers are struggling with because of the incredible demands that they have, across the board. So it's not only okay, you have all of these learners in front of you, you have all different levels of need. You have to support students with many different learning backgrounds, some on education plans, some with behavioral challenges, social emotional challenges. So not only all of that, you have to be communicating with parents. You have all of these things that you need to do, which I think teachers are pretty well prepared for in traditional educator prep programs. But I think it's those soft skills almost, this is how you teach yourself a system. This is how you get into the new IEP software. This is how you develop sustainable systems and routines so that your job gets easier over the course of the year rather than harder. So those are the kind of skills that we are seeing pretty lacking. And those are the areas of focus that organizations seem to be targeting with their teachers coming up in the programs.
And what gave you the idea to name your organization Making the Grade? Does this have a lot to do with the teachers that you're supporting and how they're learning, maybe how to go into those student information systems or help the students improve their grades? How did that come about?
That's a great question. A lot of back and forth. So we actually started making the grade as a podcast back in 2022, 2023. We still have the podcast. We were trying to a punny name was important to us in that. And then as the brand evolved, our tagline question was, asking the teachers that we were interviewing, how are you making the grade? How are you finding success in what you're doing right now? So that became kind of like our tagline. And then we transitioned into working as a business, and the name still made sense because we were working around licensure, making the grade for testing. And now it's just become our umbrella. But yeah, that was how it started. But yeah, the idea hopefully still stands true that you're finding success, and we said measuring success with your own ruler. So that was how it started.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Like measuring success with your own ruler, right? It's also making the grade on teacher improvement and teachers learning those soft
Mhm.
skills rather than always thinking about the students and what we're
Yeah.
grading them on, right? Because yeah, I think like you're saying, there's a lot of focus on getting teachers into classrooms and filling positions, but not so much about having them know like these soft skills that are often ignored in teacher prep programs. And teacher also their residencies, and depends on how closely they're working with their supervising teacher. So you also have mentioned licensure support in terms of in Massachusetts, and the teachers that might come to you be afraid that they might not pass the test. And even if they're not in Massachusetts, how do you help these teachers with teacher prep test or certification test support?
Yeah, lots of different ways. Probably the most common is we have MTEL study guides available. So those are tailored for each specific MTEL, and based on the license that you're seeking, you need to take a certain amount of and different types of tests to become licensed. So that's probably the most common way. So it's kind of like online self-paced content, and then study group meetings where we meet with all the members and talk through the areas that they're working on, any questions that they have, and give them feedback. So that's probably one of the most common ways. We also do one-on-ones with teachers as needed, and then the work through organizations where we can support larger groups of teachers. And that's nice because the teachers feel that accountability in a cohort, kind of like our students do. So it's nice to build those cohorts and communities where people are going through it in real time and in the same experience.
So you also have mentioned you have this PD series. Where can people access that? And is there a way for them to maybe kind of preview the series before they make a purchase? You talked about the webinar being free, and I've also heard a little bit about the quiz that you have. So tell me how people can kind of dive into your materials.
Yes, yes. So definitely by starting off at our website, so www.makingthegradeproject.com. If you are looking for executive function information, that would be our website, makingthegradeproject.com/executive function for educators. And yeah, starting with the executive function quiz style is the first step. So similar to like the Gretchen Rubin tendencies quiz, we've created different profiles for you as an executive function learner. And then as you go through the webinar, you can start reflecting on, oh yeah, so I'm either a reflector, connector, creator, or a planner. Based on that, these are the areas of executive function that are naturally, a strength of mine. These are the areas that I struggle with. These are the tips, daily challenges, habits, resources, apps, all the different things that you can imagine in each of those areas. So there's a lot of content available just to check out if you're curious. And then we have the course that will be available as well for purchase for anyone who's curious to learn more about how executive function skills can help them in their day-to-day life. And in specifically if you have an area that you feel like you're struggling with, like your time management, or sometimes people say I'm really struggling with procrastination, or that task initiation, or I'm finding it hard to find time in my day where I can take a break and unwind, and I'm struggling to control my temper because I'm feeling burned out. So learning more about those areas is definitely a great starting point.
Well, I'll leave those links in the show notes. Out of everything we talked about, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
To remember that you don't need to be the best at everything, that it's great to learn about new things. It's great to challenge yourself, but you don't have to be an expert in everything that you learn. I was thinking back to when we were talking about, the areas that educator prep programs might be lacking, those soft skills, that what you're doing is enough, and you don't need to feel like you need to know everything. It's okay to not know. I had some sessions last week where I had to say, Oh, I'm not sure. Let's look it up. I'll get back to you. And it's okay to say that to your
Yeah,
students. It's okay to own that.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's really important. You're learning as you go, and you can't have all the answers at once. So it's good to be vulnerable that way. Besides the
Mhm.
website, where can we find you all on social media?
Yeah, so our Instagram, we're pretty active on Instagram, on TikTok, making a grade project on Instagram and TikTok, and executive function stuff is executive function fix on Instagram. But if you find making a grade project, you'll find the other one as well. So pretty active there. We always love chatting on LinkedIn as well. If you're active on there and like to peruse or chat on there as well. But yeah, really anywhere. Website is probably the best place where everything is linked.
Good. I'll make sure I include that also in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for being my guest on the Out of the Trenches podcast today and letting me know a little bit more about what Making the Grade Project does. And for leaders who would like to reach out to you, you have all the information and, when they get new teachers in the fall, I think this would be a good time to, support those teachers and look at areas where they can need that support. Thank you so much.